Am I the antagonist? 8 weeks postpartum. Husband accuses me of being unsupportive, uncaring. My husband, 25 years old, and I, 26 years old, had our first baby just 8 weeks ago, and he is accusing me of not being supportive enough. I am the one solely taking care of the household, our newborn, and our dog while he sleeps during the day and stays up gaming at night. He is currently experiencing severe topical steroid withdrawal, with his whole body being itchy and insanely dry. He is flaking everywhere and bleeding from scratching. I haven't asked him to help out. In fact, I have encouraged him several times to go stay with his parents where he would feel less stressed. However, he claims he can't go unless I accompany him. I prefer to stay at home because I feel uncomfortable staying for several days at my in-laws' place with the baby, especially since he only sleeps during the day. He believes my workload would be too much if he left me alone, even though the only thing he currently helps with is watching the baby when I take the dog for a walk, take a shower, or go shopping. I have even started experiencing prolapse symptoms recently from having to carry heavy groceries, something he used to help with a few weeks ago but has stopped due to painful legs. His condition is mentally challenging for both of us, and at times he requires pep talks, sometimes even at night, which means I sacrifice my sleep or something else. I feel more exhausted when he's around, both physically and mentally. I try to help him when he asks, but he occasionally accuses me of being heartless and different from how I used to be before the baby. Being 8 weeks postpartum, I can't say I'm feeling like my normal self either. Sometimes he just wants me to compliment him, but I am unable to come up with anything in the moment due to being sleep-deprived and solely focused on the baby. He doesn't understand this and becomes upset. He doesn't communicate with me normally anymore and is generally very pessimistic. He keeps claiming that he would take better care of me than I do of him if I were as sick as he is. I feel drained and don't really try to argue against him anymore when he says I don't care about him. Am I the asshole? Not the antagonist. It's frustrating when partners act like children instead of stepping up to support their family. Your focus should be on taking care of yourself and the baby, not on coddling him. He needs to understand the responsibilities that come with having a newborn and start acting like an adult. Sending him to his parents until he's healed might be a wake-up call for him to prioritize your well-being and the needs of your family. Am I the antagonist for not wanting my sibling and their children to move back into our family home? I'm going to try to keep it short. I only want to focus on the relevant aspects. About a year ago, my mother suffered a health crisis, and as a result, I, 28-year-old male, moved back in with her in order to take care of her. She still has some independence, but I drive her to and from doctors, go shopping for her, help with cleaning, etc. She can wash herself, walk around the house, etc., but not much more than that. My father died a few years back, and up until I moved back in, she has been living on her own. Very recently, my sister, 30-year-old female, and her husband, 30-year-old male, have separated on bad terms. I don't want to go into details, but it's a fairly hostile situation. My sister has 2 children, a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old, and as a result, she hasn't worked in quite some time. Now she is in the process of trying to find a job, but with the children, that is difficult. Because of this, my mother suggested that she should move back in so she could look after the children. I am strongly against this. I feel for my sister, but my mother can't even really look after herself anymore, let alone provide childcare for 2 young children. If she moved in, her children would definitely become my responsibility, even though they both deny that. And I can't and don't want to add that to my plate. My sister and mother also argued that she could help with taking care of my mom, but honestly, she wouldn't be much help, and it certainly wouldn't make up for the added burden of having an infant and a small child in the home. The house is big enough in terms of rooms for her to move in without a problem, but the fact that all the caregiving duties would inevitably fall onto me is what's making me want to put my foot down. I feel like a complete asshole, but I've considered telling my mother that if my sister moves in, I will move out. I'm getting a lot of repeat questions, so I've decided to answer them here because I realize my responses will get lost in the comments. 1. Yes, I work full-time. I am a pathology resident. I pay for my own expenses and most of my mother's as well. I do not pay rent because my mother owns the house, but I do pay for electricity, water, heating, groceries, gas, and any out-of-pocket expenses at the doctor's. My mom has a small monthly pension that isn't able to cover her costs anymore due to the increase in medical costs, and inflation isn't exactly helping either. 2. The reason why I don't think my sister will be able to look after her own kids or help with our mom is that the whole point of her moving in is so that she can get help with childcare and get a job. If she were able to work and provide for her kids on her own, she wouldn't need to be moving in the first place. 3. My sister is not escaping an abusive relationship. I said hostile to indicate that they were on bad terms and not speaking to each other, but she wasn't being abused, and she isn't fleeing from him. If she were, that would be a totally different situation. She currently lives alone with her kids in their apartment, co-owned by her and her husband, and he is paying for the utility costs as of right now. Not the antagonist. Your mom and sister may have their own choices, but that doesn't mean you should bear the burden of their consequences. It's important to prioritize your own well-being, especially when you're already juggling being a young working adult and a carer. Moving out could be a practical solution, and hiring a carer for your mom can ensure her needs are met without compromising your own mental and emotional health. Don't feel guilty for putting yourself first in this situation. Am I the antagonist for telling my sibling they're not a kid anymore and need to stop acting like one because it's getting real old? My parents adopted me and all my siblings. I, 24 years old male, have a full biological sister who was placed for adoption at the same time I was. For her, it was from birth, while I was 2 years old. We were placed in foster care together, but it was very difficult for us to be placed together. We're black, so that went against us, and because we were a set, it was decided early on that we'd be placed together. We're the only biologically related siblings in our family. All my other siblings are singletons from their birth families. For me, it doesn't matter. I love and am close to all my siblings, and my sister is not my favorite or the one I'm closest to. My brother, who is basically the same age as me, is my favorite if I had to pick, but I really love them all. My sister always had more of an issue than me growing up with her identity, and she obsessed more over biological relationships. She expected us to be the closest because we're biological siblings. She expected me to be just as interested as her in finding our birth family, which I'm not and never was. I told my parents about it when we were kids, and they tried their very best to help her with therapy and fostering open communication and not treating us differently in a negative way. We were all treated differently, in some ways because we're all different people and had different needs. One thing my sister and I always bickered about was imagining our birth family. She liked to imagine what they were like and what meeting them would be like, and she wanted to do this out loud with me and for me to share mine as well. I never did that with her, and I told her it was not something I would ever be comfortable doing because I would never want to know them like she wanted to. She hated that and would tell me one day we'd find them together. When it came to her wanting to be my favorite because biologically related, I tried to be more calm and understanding about that. But she's 22 years old now and she's not a kid. We're both still young, but I fully believe we're not kids anymore, and I hate that she still puts it on me to choose her over my siblings or that she won't find our birth family alone because I don't want to be a part of that. She brought it up again a few days ago and I lost my temper a little. I told her to grow up because she's not a little kid anymore and she needs to stop acting like she is. I told her she's my sister and I love her, but she's not my only sibling and she's never going to be. Then I told her I do not care if our birth family wants to know us. I don't want to know them, and I'm not going to ignore that just because she wants to know them. She got so upset. I can tell it kind of shattered her. Am I the asshole? Am I the antagonist? Not the antagonist. It's totally understandable for you to have your own feelings about not wanting to reconnect with your bio family, especially if you were foster children and never went back to your bio parents for a reason. Your sister's fantasy of finding them may be a coping mechanism, but it's not fair for her to guilt you into joining her search. It's important to set boundaries and be honest with her about your feelings. Seeking therapy together could help you both navigate this challenge and provide support. Good luck with everything. Am I the antagonist for refusing to help my spouse's family anymore? I, 34-year-old male, got married 9 years ago to my wife Jessica, 33-year-old female. Jessica and I have 2 children, Robin, 7-year-old female, and Theo, 5-year-old male. Growing up, I didn't have a family. I was a foster kid who was bounced around a lot because sometimes my biological mother would take me back, but she'd always end up losing custody again or placing me back. When she finally stopped trying, I was 11 years old and too old for most people who wanted babies or very young children. So I aged out of the system without being adopted or finding a family. I had hoped that when Jessica and I met, I'd be welcomed by her family, but that's not how it went. It took me years to figure it out though. They look down on me. They're not totally obvious about it, but I see it in the way they are with me versus the way they are with the other sons, daughters-in-law. Like asking them about Christmas plans but saying they didn't expect us to do anything else because I don't have a family. Or asking about the others' jobs and promotions but never me, then acting so shocked both times Jessica or I mentioned I was promoted. There was a time when my sister-in-law mentioned a foster kid who won a scholarship to college and it made it into the local news. The whole family's reaction was, "Oh wow, a foster kid making it to college is so unexpected." And Jessica pointed out that I went to college. They looked a little uncomfortable, and I heard 2 of her siblings whisper something about Jessica in that story, so I assumed they believed she lied about where we met. They don't make an effort for my birthday. They make assumptions that I don't spend time with my kids. They assume any effort made by me is me doing it for Jessica and don't believe me when I say it's not. Yet they will always ask for my help with repairs around the house or assembling something because I'm good at that stuff. I have helped Jessica's parents and all her siblings at least twice. Once I realized, with help from therapy, that they really didn't like me and seemed to think less of me for being a foster kid, I did that stuff for Jessica and not for them. But then a few weeks ago, Jessica's parents had issues with the stairs. I went and fixed them up. I was hours working on one part and had to go and get extra materials. It was a whole thing. Some of the family came over while I was there, and Jessica's parents made food for them. But nothing for me. When I asked them if there was any for me, they told me they didn't think I'd want to eat after working so hard, for hours, with no food in between. I told them they didn't think that. They simply didn't want to be polite to me and offer food after doing all that work for them. I was called out by Jessica's parents and her siblings. Jessica took my side, as did some of the siblings' spouses. But I was called out again for not helping fix a shelf for one of Jessica's sisters and saying, never again would I help any of them. They said family helps family. I asked them when they ever treat me like family. Am I the asshole? Not the antagonist. It's totally fair to question why they never treat you like family. They have consistently treated you as an outsider for years, and it's about time they start treating you with the respect and care that family would. Their unfounded prejudices are ridiculous, and you have every right to call them out on it. You're not just a handyman, you deserve to be treated as an equal. Setting boundaries and demanding to be treated with basic consideration and respect is crucial. Don't allow yourself to be used as a free handyman without getting the respect you deserve. Am I the antagonist for saying I don't care about my half-sister's wedding and I don't even want to go? My half-sister is in her mid-20s. I believe she's either 26 or 27, but I'm not entirely sure. We aren't close enough for me to remember her exact age, even though we lived in the same house when I was younger. I'm a 16-year-old female. My half-sister lost her father when she was 5 or 6 years old. After that, my mom met my dad. They got married and had me and my 2 younger siblings who were 13 and 12. When my half-sister moved out, I was still in elementary school, and she basically had no further contact with me. She would visit to see our mom, but she didn't care about the rest of us. She would act civil, but it was clear she was forcing herself to interact with us and not show any signs of disapproval or annoyance. I remember when I was 9, hearing my half-sister and mom arguing outside the house. My half-sister told my mom to stop acting like my dad was part of her family, stating that mom had married him, but he was just her husband and not a parent to her. Mom argued that dad had done nothing wrong and didn't deserve outright rejection, not even of a friendly relationship. My half-sister expressed that the only person in the house she cared about was herself. She even said that my dad could give her a kidney, and she would still consider him just mom's husband. She stated that she wouldn't care if we, dad, me, siblings, dropped dead because we meant nothing to her, not even a little. Now my half-sister is getting married and I'm tired of all the talk and fighting surrounding it. The conflict arose when my half-sister declared that my dad would have no role in her wedding, and neither would my siblings or I. She said we were merely tolerated guests and nothing more. Dad had hoped he would at least get to dance with her. Mom also wanted that for him, feeling that my dad has done a lot for my half-sister over the years and always tried to be a good member of her family. However, my half-sister made it clear that we were only invited because of mom, and that was the extent of it. My parents discussed this situation frequently, debating whether mom should attend the wedding alone to avoid upsetting us by making us miss our big sister's wedding. I interjected and stated that I didn't care about her wedding and didn't want to go. My mom looked devastated upon hearing this. Afterwards, my dad talked to me and mentioned that I could have handled the situation better because all 4 of us are my mom's children, and she never wanted our relationship with my half-sister to be so strained. Later, my mom apparently spoke to my grandparents, her parents, and they asked me why I was so harsh and if I realized that giving up meant there was no hope for a good relationship with my half-sister in the future, which would be unfair to my mom. Mom was appalled that they said that to me. Between my grandparents and dad, I'm questioning if I was wrong to express myself the way I did. Am I the asshole? Am I the antagonist? Not the antagonist. Your mom's desire for all her children to get along is understandable, but unrealistic. You can't force a relationship that isn't there, and expecting a stepdaughter to participate in a father-daughter dance when there's no bond is just not practical. It's important to prioritize your own feelings and boundaries, even if it disappoints others. Your grandma and parents need to understand that you have valid reasons for not pursuing a relationship with your half-sister, and your mom should respect your decision. It's tough navigating these family dynamics, especially as a teenager, so give yourself some grace and focus on maintaining a healthy relationship with your mom. Am I the antagonist for calling off my wedding until my in-laws stop fighting? I, 22 years old female, and my fiancé, 26 years old male, had our wedding date set for October of next year. We announced it 3 months ago at a family barbecue, and everyone seemed excited. We've been engaged for a little over a year now, and we wanted to announce the date before we even sent out invitations so everyone could plan for it. Our initial plan to pay for the wedding went as follows. We saved $500 each month for a year. We are getting married at the small-town family church, so $6,000 is plenty to cover what we need. A week after the announcement, my parents, bride's parents, gave a very generous $2,000 donation to the wedding. My parents and my partners have about the same finances. My parents decided to skip their spring break trip to donate. My mother-in-law heard about the donation. We thanked my parents publicly but didn't specify the amount. She decided at the next family gathering to ask my parents about it, where she learned the amount and how they afforded that. There was some conversation before I walked over, but this is what I heard my mother-in-law say to my fiancé. "Don't worry, I'll pay for your next one." My mother-in-law hasn't ever liked me. She says I'm dramatic. She's probably right, to be honest. My fiancé told her firmly to shut up. My parents looked pissed off as well. My mom said she didn't think it was fair that the bride's side, of 6 people, small family, donated more than my partner's side, 20 people. I don't have any grandparents or aunts and uncles left, so my family is smaller. I told them that I love their donation, but my mother-in-law's side does not need to donate. My mother-in-law responded with a snappy, "I'm not giving up my vacation just because you two are broke." I got pissed and told her again that I don't want any money from her. Mid-April, my mother-in-law posts on Facebook about her spontaneous New York 5-day vacation with other members of my fiancé's side of the family. My parents got very offended, thinking that if they had enough for a spontaneous vacation, why don't they help pay for the wedding? I think they exaggerated the trip out of spite, but I still kinda agree. But at the end of the day, it's their money. Now it's May and both sides of the family are posting sassy Facebook posts, messaging inappropriate comments, and some not even talking. I posted on Facebook that we're putting the wedding off for now. I posted, "We are no longer planning our wedding for October. We want to be married and supported by loving family members, and we all know we've been lacking at that recently. We will replan the wedding at a later date." I tagged everyone and now everyone's mad at me. I tried to stay out of the drama, but seriously, what the heck? Am I the jerk? What do I do now? Anyways. Sounds like the perfect situation for eloping imo. The parents are acting like assholes, so refund your parents and elope. They're all already mad anyways lol. These people need to learn what healthy boundaries are. You just signed yourself up to do this all over again if you don't. Not the antagonist. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.